All right, welcome. Today, we're going to move beyond just the basics of chatting with an AI. We're going to dive into how you can really put AI to work for you using these powerful new tools called AI agents. And, maybe most importantly, we'll cover how to do it all safely and responsibly, especially at work. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. We'll kick things off with what's new and cool in AI. Then we'll get real about its blind spots, because, it's not magic. From there, we'll talk about your role as the human in the loop, which is absolutely critical. Then we'll walk through a practical playbook for using AI responsibly and wrap up with how to actually supervise your own AI agent. You can think of this whole thing as your journey from just understanding AI to really mastering it. All right, let's kick things off with a big question. What if you could delegate your entire to-do list? And I don't mean just one little task. I mean the whole shebang, the research, the emails, the scheduling, all of it. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, it's getting a whole lot closer to reality, all thanks to these things called AI agents. So what exactly is an AI agent? Well, it's definitely not just a chatbot you ask questions to. Think of it more like a system that can handle complicated, multi-step jobs all on its own to reach a big goal you set. And here's the real game changer. It can actually take action. It can use other tools that you give it permission to use, but, and this is key, it's always under your supervision. So how do they do it? Well, they run on this simple but super powerful continuous loop. First, they analyze the goal to figure out, okay, what's the very next step? Then they act. They actually do that task using a tool you've allowed. And finally, they observe the result to see if it got them closer to the finish line. Think about it like this. You tell it to schedule a team meeting. First, it's going to analyze everyone's calendars, then it'll act by finding a free slot, then it'll observe if that worked for everyone, and loop right back around to draft and send the invite. It's this cycle that makes them so incredibly useful. Okay, so we know how these agents work. Now let's talk about what they can work with. Because AI today goes way, way beyond just words on a screen. This is one of the biggest leaps forward in AI, and it's called multimodality. Basically, it's the ability to use all kinds of different formats, images, audio, even video, when you're talking to the AI, and even get them back as an answer. So what does that mean for you? Well, instead of just typing a long description, you could just say, hey, draft an email based on these pictures of our new products. It just gives the AI so much more context to work with. Pretty cool, right? Okay, this is really cool stuff, but with all this power comes a really big catch. We have to understand its limits. This stuff is not magic, and this next part is all about its very real, very important blind spots. Just think about this simple phrase, we need to talk. When it comes from your boss, it lands a little differently than if it comes from your coworker, doesn't it? You instantly get the nuance, the context, the possible outcomes. An AI just can't do that. It doesn't have real-world experiences, so it completely misses that deep, intuitive understanding we humans have. And this right here, this really gets to the core of it. We as humans have judgment. It's based on actual experience, on understanding consequences. AI, it's a master pattern matcher. It's incredibly good at finding patterns in tons and tons of data, but it doesn't actually understand any of it. Its answers are all based on probability, not on wisdom. Now, this lack of real understanding can lead to something that's got a pretty interesting name, hallucination. This is just when an AI states something that's completely wrong or untrue or just makes no sense at all. And here's the really tricky part. It can say something completely wrong with total confidence. That's why you can never, ever just take what it says at face value. So why does it do this? Well, it could be a bunch of things. Maybe there were mistakes in the data it was trained on. Or maybe the problem you gave it is just weird and it hasn't seen anything like it. It might misunderstand how the world works. Or, let's be honest, sometimes it's really just guessing. For example, if you ask it for upcoming street festivals, it might spit out a perfect-looking list from last year. It found a pattern, but the information is totally useless. You always have to verify. Okay, and all of this leads us to what might be the single most important idea we're going to talk about today, your role as the human in the loop. Let me be super clear about this. You are in the driver's seat, always. This isn't about outsourcing your brain, it's about getting a powerful assistant. You are responsible for looking over every single step from the very beginning to the final product. That constant involvement, that's what we mean by human in the loop. And honestly, for using this stuff responsibly, it's totally non-negotiable. All right, theory is great, but how do you actually do this? let's get practical and open up the Responsible AI Playbook. This is all about giving you clear ways to stay in control. First things first, data privacy. This is huge. When you're talking to any AI, especially a public one, you need to follow these rules. Always use generic placeholders, Project X instead of the real name. Focus your prompts on the task, not the people. Only give it the bare minimum information it needs to get the job done. And please, never, ever enter sensitive or confidential information. And as one last tip, it's a good habit to just clear its memory when you're done. Now, to make all this super easy to remember, we've got a simple framework for you. ACT. It's just 3 steps. Ask, check, and tell. Let's quickly break down what each of those means. So for A, that's for ask. Before you type a single word, you've got to ask yourself a few things. First, is this even the right tool for the job? Never use it for medical, legal, or big financial advice. Second, is the data you're about to use actually safe to put in there? Avoid anything secret or confidential. And finally, are you following the rules at work? Make sure you're using tools your company has approved. Okay, next up is C for check, and you cannot skip this step. Before you use the output for anything, you have to check it. Check for accuracy. Are the facts and names right? You got to verify them somewhere else. Check for bias. Is the AI being one-sided or using stereotypes? Check for appropriateness. Is the tone right for who you're talking to? And finally, check for originality. The AI gives you a first draft. It's your job to add your own expertise and make it better. And finally, T is for tell. Just tell people when you've used AI. Look, it's all about being transparent and honest. Just follow whatever your company's guidelines are on this. And, we're even seeing tools that help with this, like Google's SynthID, which can actually watermark AI content so everyone knows where it came from. All right, let's pull all these threads together. We're going to apply this whole playbook to supervising those really powerful AI agents we talked about at the beginning. This is where we go from theory to real-world practice. So when you're deciding how much you need to supervise an agent, just think about 2 words, risk and reversibility. Having a draft an email that just saves to your drafts folder, that's super low risk and easy to undo. No big deal. But letting it post directly to your company's social media, whoa, that's high risk and you can't easily take it back. The more risk and the harder it is to reverse, the more you need to be in control. So with that in mind, here are our final best practices for directing these agents. 1, always start with a super clear, specific goal. Plan a marketing campaign is way too vague. Draft a 3 email sequence for our new product launch is something it can actually do. 2, be smart about permissions. Only give it access to what it absolutely needs. 3, and you've heard me say this before, you are responsible for the final results, so check everything. And 4, if it doesn't get it right the first time, just try again. Refine your instructions, treat it like a collaborator you're guiding. Wow, okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today, from what an AI agent even is to how you can manage it like a pro. You've got this new, incredibly powerful collaborator that's ready to go. The only question left is, what's that first clear, specific goal you're going to give it?